Hello my friends, my name is David. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to have my Saturday mishmash. It's a fun word to say. And so this is the return of where I'm going to just talk about anything and everything that's relevant. I don't know how long this video is going to be. My daughter is currently sleeping, and so I figured I'd take a break from grading papers, which I'll be doing most of this weekend. To make a quick video to just have a chat with you and to talk about what I've been reading, future plans, games I've been playing, things like that, if I can get through all of them. So I'm going to try to prioritize this in order of importance here. So I'm going to start with my giveaway for 300 subscribers. A week or two ago, posted a video mentioning, hey, I hit 300. Now I'm well past that. I'm safely past it. To the point where losing the normal ebb and flow of subscribers shouldn't take it back under there. And again, I could care less. I'm happy having 5 or 10 folks that comment and have conversations on videos, and I have that, and I'm so thankful for that. Getting to know each of you a little bit better and to just have good, meaningful conversations. And that's what I enjoy about BookTube. And so that's going to kind of dictate a lot of what I'm doing going forward. That's why I'm going to be doing these conversational mishmashes. That's why I'm doing Poetry Thursdays, because I want to be one of the biggest poetry influencers on BookTube. That's why I'm doing little book clubs with Shelley, Aaron. That's why I'm going to be dragging people to Mordor with my Lord of the Rings read-along, and so many more things. So you'll probably see a lot fewer reviews, if any, and more of book discussions. And I'm happy with that, because that's what I'd prefer to do, is just have discussions. Because who else out there can sit here in a room by themselves and talk to a camera and feel like they're having a meaningful conversation with people that they genuinely don't know yet, but feel some kind of a kinship with. And so I thank all of you for that, because it's something that I get to look forward to, and it brings me some joy in my life. And it's been rough with work lately, so I've been needing that. So thank you. So let's get to that 300 subs giveaway. So I've got my wheel here. I'm going to spin it, and we will see who wins the giveaway of Idols of the King by Alfred Lord Tennyson, a copy of Merchant Aurea. And we have Jeremy Fee. All right, Mr. Jeremy Fee, who has recently made his own meaningful decision to cut down on the videos that he was producing weekly, and I completely understand and appreciate that. So Jeremy, I'll reach out to you and get some details for you, and give you kind of an idea of what some of the possibilities are, and you let me know what you're interested in, and I'll send a package your way with the books that you choose, above and beyond Idols of the King and A Merchant in Aurea. So next thing I want to talk about is one that, if you watched the very, very end of that video, and that was a long video, and that's why I'm talking about it now, you saw what I got from my grandmother, which is this, a junk journal, which I had no idea what it was beforehand, but it's got all kinds of cool odds and ends, and she made it kind of a medieval fantasy themed for me. I mean, it's got envelopes that you can pull out, and bookmarks galore, and little postcards that you can write on, and lots of empty pages that I can fill out. And I put out a call of, if anybody wants to send me anything to go in here, whether it's a page out of a book that's beyond saving, whether it's a handwritten note, whether it's some kind of a picture or something, whatever you feel like sending. If there is something that you say, hey, I'd like to send it your way to put in your journal, I want to fill this with memories from booktubers. So I'll have my address down below, just like I did in that previous video. I know a couple people have already reached out and said that they're going to send me something. I haven't received any of it yet, but once I do, I'll be opening that on camera, and I'm very, very excited to start getting some of those and filling this up. with all kinds of additional things. So next, let's talk briefly about what I've been reading, because I think that's what most people are interested in, especially if I'm not going to be reviewing things going forward necessarily in a formalized review. Sorry for those of you that like the recent idea of the 1-star, 5-star. Feel free to use that for your own channel, because I think that was absolutely a great way of providing additional insight into a review. So I'm working my way still through the landmark Julius Caesar. I'm about halfway through Alexandrian War. Alexandrian, African, and Spanish War are all relatively short. I just haven't had as much time for reading as I'd like, but this is definitely on my. If I have time this weekend to read, I'm probably pulling this one out first because John from Hey Y'all Listen Up has already finished this book, and I'd like to catch up and actually finish it this month. I've been behind him every step of the way, and it remained true because he finished it like in the first week, and that's great. I'm glad he's enjoyed it. I think it's a 5-star read for him. I think it's going to be a 5-star read for me as well. It's just absolutely fantastic, and the additions of the landmark series, the maps, the charts, the footnotes are what make it above and beyond a 5-star read. It's convinced me that I need every single landmark edition that they've produced because they can be found for $20 to $30 typically in these nice paperbacks. And I've got landmark Julius Caesar and I've got a landmark Herodotus, and so there's plenty of others. There's I think 4 or 5 others that I need to pick up, and I plan on picking all of them up. All right, so let's talk about my big buddy read of the month, and this is. I'm hoping to finish it this month. I'm enjoying it immensely, and that's Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. This is book 2 of the Live Ship Traders. I'm buddy reading this with Rachel and Beth Ann, and we're all having a really good time with it. We were kind of slow going on the start. I am currently at going into chapter 10. Beth Ann chimed in on Voxer last night saying that she just got through chapter 15, so I had to hit stop before I listened to the rest of that message, and I'm like, crap. Now I need to read this weekend too. And it's a paper weekend, and I'm not going to have time for reading. I don't even really have time necessarily for making this video. That's why I'm kind of moving fast. I've chipped away a little bit more at A Graveyard for Lunatics by Ray Bradbury. I'm enjoying it every time I dive in there. I just don't have time to dedicate, and it's on the back burner, but I have chipped away a little more at it, and I'm enjoying that so far. It's Bradbury. Of course, it's enjoyable. I've also chipped away a little bit at Conan the Barbarian. This is volume 1 in the Marvel Epic collections. I've read the first 3 tales in here. I think Tower of the Elephant is what's coming up next, and I'm really excited for that one. And again, I just haven't had the time to dedicate. Each morning, along with my morning Bible reading, I've been trying to read a poem or 2 a day, and while I was waiting on my poetry book of the month club to arrive, I had finished Eliot's book on the practical cats. I finished Life on Mars, which was disappointing, and so I was like, let's see what I've got on my shelf. We'll pick one up and read some poems until it arrives. So I grabbed my Thomas Hardy selected poems, read about first dozen or so of them across a couple of days, and I've decided Hardy is not a poet for me. I don't think I enjoy his style. I read the first, in the first couple pages, I skipped about halfway through, figuring that they probably followed a chronology. This is one that will be parting, which I think I paid $1 at Goodwill for, so I'm not too bummed about it. I'm sure Hardy's got some good poems out there. I just don't have the patience to get through all of that to find them when I've got so many other poems that I need to read. Speaking of which, this showed up yesterday, The Hawk in the Rain by Ted Hughes. This is the poetry book of the month club. This is a very, very slim volume. I think it's like 58 pages. Maybe even fewer than that, 54 pages. So I opened it last night, read a couple of poems out loud to my daughter. as I was spending some time with her. So in between songs, we did some poetry. I read her a couple more as I was putting her to bed. I'm immensely enjoying the poems in here so far. He's not going to be my favorite poet, I don't think, after this, but I'm really enjoying this. And I had to start catching up to Aaron because I know he had started it a couple days ago, and so I'm waiting to hear back on how far he's gotten. But when my daughter wakes up, I'll be reading to her some more poems. But I wanted to read one of them out of here. So the next poem, I'm just at random. The next poem that I'll be reading, I'm going to read the next two because they're both short. I'm going to read them to you right now. So congratulations, you just gained Poetry Saturday. So this is called Secretary. If I should touch her, she would shriek and weeping crawl off to nurse the terrible wound. All day like a starling under the bellies of bulls she hurries among men, ducking, peeping, off in a whirl at the first move of a horn. At dusk she scuttles down the gauntlet of lust like a clockwork mouse. Safe home at last she mends socks with holes, shirts that are torn, for father and brother, and a delicate supper cooks, goes to bed early, shuts out with the light her 30 years, and lies with buttocks tight, hiding her lovely eyes until daybreak. Then Soliloquy of a Misanthrope. Whenever I am got under my gravestone, sending my flowers up to stare at the church tower, gritting my teeth in the chill from the church floor, I shall praise God heartily to see gone, as I look round at old acquaintance there, complacency from the smirk of every man, and every attitude showing its bone, and every mouth confessing its crude shire. But I shall thank God thrice heartily to be lying beside women who grimace under the commitments of their flesh, and not out of spite or vanity. So I'll read that last passage once more. So, but I shall thank God thrice heartily to be lying beside women who grimace under the commitments of their flesh, and not out of spite or vanity. So I'm definitely enjoying it far more than the Hardy. So Hawk in the Rain. If you have it, feel free to pick it up and read it with us. If you don't have it and you can get your hands on it before the end of this month, you can still read it and join in the conversation with us. I'll be reading more from there this coming Poetry Thursday, and we'll just have conversations about it. The last book I've been reading is Forever Peace by Joe Haldeman. I actually listened to this one. I just finished it 2 days ago. So this is the follow-up to The Forever War, which was probably my most surprising book of 2021. And so I knew going in that I was going to enjoy Haldeman and his writing in the world. And it follows a completely different set of characters in a completely different set of circumstances than what you had in the Forever War, which took a little bit of getting used to, but was not a bad thing by any means. And I enjoyed it, not as much as the Forever War. It definitely was still a satisfying book to get through. I'm glad that I did, and I'm looking forward to Forever Free, which is the last in the trilogy, which I have on my shelf, and I may check to see if I can get it on audiobook to listen to that, just to keep moving forward. But my hold on Dune finally came up, so I am currently listening to Dune. Started that yesterday, and yeah, that is a revisit for me, and I'm hoping to really enjoy it as I go along. So in addition to The Hawk in the Rain, I had 3 additional books show up. I bought a couple off of thrift books with a little bit of income I got from some freelance writing that I do each month. So I picked up a copy of Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451, which I'm buddy reading with Shelley as part of our eclectic book club this month. We're starting it around the 21st. It's a short little volume. It'll be a reread for me. And I picked this one just for the cover. I mean, I like this cover. It's such a cool little cover, and that's why I wanted this copy. Yeah, I'm happy to have it, and I'm looking forward to that. There's still plenty of time to pick up a copy. I mean, almost every bookstore used or otherwise, will probably have a copy of Fahrenheit 451 for you to be able to pick up. It's a very well-known book. So the next book that I added on there, I hit a threshold to be able to get a book for free with my order, so I tacked on, thanks to Michael from Fit to Be Read, his review of The Stars My Destination by Alfred Bester convinced me that I absolutely have to read this book. If you haven't seen it, check out his channel, check out his review. I'll try to remember to link that down below so that you can check out his review of this, because it absolutely convinced me within about the first 2 minutes that I need to read this book. And then the last one that I picked up, and this kind of goes with what I'm going to talk about next. This is completely a me thing. I know maybe I could count on one finger the number of you that might be interested in reading this. But it's a very, very slim volume, and I plan to try to squeeze it in this month, in spite of everything else I'm trying to finish. And that is A Student's Guide to Chaucer's Middle English by Peter G. Beidler. This is a very, very thin volume. And yeah, it's exactly what you would think. It's a guide to Middle English, which will go really well with my volume, An Introduction to Middle English, which I need to get around to reading still. And the reason why I'm diving into Middle English is because I've announced in my Poetry Thursday video, and I'm going to announce it again here, 2022, I'm planning, in addition to reading the D'Artagnan romances with Tony from An Erudite Adventure, in addition to dragging everybody to Mordor, starting next month when we read The Hobbit, and then January through June when we're reading the 6 parts broken down within the Lord of the Rings, I'm going to be reading 2 masterful poets in the English literature. The first of which is Geoffrey Chaucer. So I'm going to be breaking down my Riverside Chaucer and segmenting it and trying to get it into a 12-month span. And so my hope is that to be ready for this, so that this may end up being a December read, actually. But being ready to read through all of Chaucer, with the Canterbury Tales taking place sometime in the second half of the year. Simply because of the front load of the D'Artagnan romances and the Lord of the Rings, I want to make sure that when I hit the big ones, I've got plenty of time. So we'll probably be starting with some of the smaller ones like Parliament of Fowls and things like that are 20, 30 pages in here as a good way of getting through things. And then I'm also planning on going through everything Edmund Spenser. So I've got a volume that I think is going to have his complete poetry. The Norton Critical does not. It's got some great criticism and everything that I would love out of the Norton Critical. But I mean, the 660-page book, and 428 of it is taken up by Fairy Queen, or 407 of it is taken up by Fairy Queen excerpts, and then parts of the Shepherd's Calendar, and then parts of Amoretti, and parts of. So I wanted to see if I could get a volume that has all of his minor poetry, and then hopefully sometime early in the year pick up the rest of the Fairy Queen that I'm missing. So I need books 5 and 6 if I'm getting ones that match this, or they have some nice 1-volume sets that I might pick up. I'll probably get 5 and 6 to match this, just because these are really nice. In spite of not having, it does have some footnotes in there, and so I'm excited to read those. And again, just like the Chaucer, I'm going to save the Fairy Queen for the back half of the year. So we'll spend the first half of the year in Spenser's other poetry, and then move along into that. So the ginormous announcement, the Steve Donoghue made me do it announcement. So a clickbaity title if you ever saw one, right? In 2017, Steve Donoghue made a series of 12 videos titled The Western Canon Starter Kit. In this, he establishes the essential starting points, not necessarily essential, but breaking down across the realm of Western canon literature, the places to make sure you hit in literature to show you that they are approachable now, they're enjoyable now, that you don't have to wait for any kind of formal schooling to pick up and enjoy them, to make it so it doesn't feel as intimidating, and that these are works that you will find referenced and alluded to throughout all of literature. And so reading them will give you that foundation that when you come across references to them in other texts, you are prepared for that. And so I've watched his videos. I watched them months ago and watched all of his starter kits after that, and had compiled a big giant spreadsheet with all of those. And his resurrection of the starter kits with the Tudor starter kit that he just did for Shelley made me remember that I wanted to go and go through his Western canon. Now, we all know Steve Donoghue and his inability to understand how normal people read. He thinks that could be done in a year. And I don't think, even if I did no other, even if I tossed out every other piece of reading that I intended to do and did just the Western canon, I'm not sure I could get through all of it in a year. But that's okay. I'm not trying to get it all done in 2022. I'm trying to make progress on it in 2022. And so the other big ones I'm going to be reading and talking about on this channel. So in addition to my big read-alongs, the Chaucer, the Spencer, the Lord of the Rings, the Dumas, the book club with Shelley, the poetry club with Aaron, those are going to be what dominates this channel going forward. And it's going to be what dominates my reading time. And I'll pick up other books as I have time. And I'm okay with that because I'm super excited for all of those reads. But what I'm planning on doing is chipping away at the entries that Steve mentioned in his 12 videos on the Western canon as the starting points. I've got a spreadsheet. It's 58 is what I came down to. And that is counting the books of the Bible that he mentions as one entry. That is counting the complete works of Shakespeare, which he mentions as one entry. $58, and that's not too many. But some of them are going to take some time. I mean, it's going to take a while to get through all of this, and I'm going to try chipping away at it because I want to read and reread all of Shakespeare. And that was already something that I wanted to do in 2022 was to start chipping away at that, and this just solidifies it. Chaucer's Canterbury Tales is on there. Spencer's Fairy Queen should be on there. It's not, but it should have been on there. So I'm going to pretend it was. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings is on there. So I was already going to be making progress on that. And I know what Shelley and I are going to be reading in December and January. And the 2 volumes there that we're already planning on reading for our eclectic book club are on that list. So I'm already going to be making progress towards it, even if I do no other effort towards it. But I want to try chipping away at them because he's got some really good ones that I've read and have really enjoyed and that I need to reread, ones I've never read but have always wanted to get around to reading. And so it seemed like a worthwhile venture to catalog my going through the Steve Donoghue Western canon, his selections on what to start with. And the reason for that is twofold. One, of course, I'm going to benefit from having gone through all of those. The ones I haven't seen, I'm going to benefit from going into and reading for the first time. The ones I have read, I'm going to benefit from rereading and just continuing to enjoy those, because all of the ones I've read that he did mention are really, really enjoyable and are among some of my favorites. And so I'm excited to revisit some of them, such as the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Divine Comedy by Dante. Those are all excellent works. Canterbury Tales by Chaucer, Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, Middlemarch. There's some great, great, great books that I'll be hitting and revisiting along the way, and I'm excited for that. And there's others that I've been meaning to read for the first time and have always put off. And so that's one benefit from that, is I'm going to be able to do all of those. But the other side benefit is I'm attempting to try to coerce Steve indirectly through doing this to get around to making a sequel to the starter kit for the Western Canon. So a part 2, where he does rectify his omission of someone like Edmund Spenser and the Fairy Queen, where he rectifies some of those other omissions along the way. He didn't hit any Russian or French literature during the height of writers like Dumas and Hugo and Dostoevsky and Tolstoy, and I think all of those would be absolutely deserving of mention and worthwhile ventures. He doesn't hit the Gawain poet. I mean, the shadow he casts, I guess, is arguable. Chrétien de Troyes and his Lancelot of the Cart and those other Arthurian romances all should be included in there, arguably. They're fantastic. Beowulf isn't on there. The Epic of Gilgamesh isn't on there. So I want Steve to go and revisit this and add more for the, okay, once you've done this, now you can go back, start back at the beginning and work your way back through and hit these as your second pass through. And I want to know what those are, because if there's somebody that's knowledgeable about that, more so than Steve, I don't know who it would be on BookTube. And I would absolutely love that series. I would consume every minute where he's talking about those things multiple times. I mean, I've already watched his Western Canon 3 different times, those series of 12 videos, because they're all about 10 minutes long. And when you're watching at 1.5 speed, Steve actually talks at a fast clip, and you can get through them pretty fast. So I'm excited to try to chip through the Western Canon. And, I've got a lot of reading. And so obviously this is going to limit my ability to force my way in on read-alongs and readathons and buddy reads with everybody else as they pop up throughout the year. And I think part of me intentionally is trying to sabotage that ability to do so, because that's what overwhelmed me in the middle of this summer. Was I was just overcommitted. I was overstretched, reading books that were enjoyable, sure, but not the ones I was wanting to read at the time. And I'm going to be hitting some of the big hitters on my shelf that I've just been meaning to get back around to, or to get around to for the first time. And I couldn't be happier about it. Oh, so board games that I've been playing. So let's end it with this. I've got a couple to talk about that, and we'll try to move quickly. They're all, I don't think I had one that was disappointing in these board games. The probably the lowest on the list would be the Samurai Gardener. I got it as a free. I bought my badge to a local convention. It was my free. Hey, you randomly won a game. Here's the game that you randomly won. We played it. It's fine. It was enjoyable. It was really, really challenging because of some of the limitations it puts on you as you're building the landscape, and did that in a really interesting way. I think it'd be absolutely fascinating with more players, but still was really fun with 2. Played a game called Kalis. This is a very, very old game. in terms of modern board games. And this is, I believe, the first, if not one of the first, worker placement games that was ever created. So this is where that genre kind of got its start, and it was enjoyable. We played some things wrong that we're going to rectify. I'm hoping that we have a friend coming this weekend to try it with 3, because I think the sweet spot is going to be at more than 2. Although it was still enjoyable with 2, and I think it'll be a lot even more challenging with 2 if we play it with the correct rules next time. Next is Patrician. So this is also an older game, 2007, and this is one that I got from that convention. And you're building towers, and so you've got little wooden roofs that you're stacking up into different cities, and you're trying to have the most in the cities when they finish. And interesting game. Again, another one that I think is going to be outstanding with more players, and was still enjoyable with the 2 of us, but would have way better and more dynamics with more than 2. All right, let's get out the other one that I played with my spouse, and then I'll talk about the 2 that I've played solo. Yes, instead of just reading, I've been trying to intentionally get back a little bit more of my hobbies. So we played Palaces of Mad King Ludwig, which is kind of a spiritual successor to the Castles of Mad King Ludwig. In this one, the rooms are all square instead of odd shapes, and you're all building into the same palace. It's interesting. We both enjoyed it. We played it earlier this week. We still have it kind of set up to play it again, and hopefully we'll do that tonight. So the last 2 I'm going to talk about here. First is a game called Red Martians: Adventures on the Red Planet. This is a challenge. It's got a lot of parts and pieces. You got to use an app on your phone to kind of take you through events that are happening, and you're trying to accomplish your objectives while managing events that are happening. Really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure how much I was enjoying it when I finished the tutorial mission, but when I finally sat down to finish the tutorial mission, I immediately set up the next mission after that, and then immediately played that next mission that same night. And so that convinced me I was having fun with this. Really enjoyable. But the solo game that has really been stealing my heart right now recently is a game called Marvel Champions. This is a card-based game by Fantasy Flight Games. So that some of the same designers that make the Lord of the Rings card game, which is one of my absolute favorites, made this to where you're superheroes fighting against the villains, and it's just done masterfully. I would hate to say that it could overtake Lord of the Rings because they're 2 very different games. But I think I'm going to equally enjoy having both and playing both as 2 of my most played solo games going forward, because Lord of the Rings has always been the one when I don't know what solo game to grab, I grab Lord of the Rings. And now I've got an option with Marvel Champions, which is, I think, a little bit quicker, especially on the setup piece of it, and still immensely enjoyable. And one that I think anybody that, whether you enjoy comics or not, you'll enjoy this. Your superheroes have a superhero side and their secret identity side. So you're switching between those because you can only heal up when you're in your secret identity. But while you're in your secret identity, the villains, instead of attacking you, are advancing their scheme. And if their schemes get advanced too far, they're going to win, whether or not you're still alive. So you've got to balance that and walk that tight line. And so Michael K. Vaughn, if you're listening, this is a game that you should check out. Marvel Champions. I think you would absolutely enjoy it. And it can play up to, I think, 4 players, and it's a cooperative game, so you're all working together. And it's a lot of fun. And the cooperative, of course, will make it so my wife won't ever play it with me, even though I think she'd have an absolute blast, because she likes trying to defeat me rather than working together to defeat a game. So, well, my daughter's still sleeping, so I'm going to get back to grading some papers. Thank you for joining me on this mishmash, where I just talked about everything that happens to be on my mind. I'll have standalone videos later to outline my deeper plans for 2022 once I get the Spenser poetry book that's on its way. I'll talk more at length and just about Spenser, Chaucer, and the Western Canon when that video goes up. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.